We're going to be going over the M60e3 machine gun, the kit which was made by Seiko Defense and used by the Marine Corps to convert these guns from standard in to M60e3, and how to assemble them. Okay, we're going to begin by going over each and individual parts. We'll start with the barrel assemblies. We have an M60e3 long barrel, and we also have an M60e3 shorty barrel or commando barrel. The difference obviously being the length and the weight. These longer barrels were, obviously have better accuracy at longer distances. Next thing we're going to go over is the rear sight assembly. The difference between a standard sight is we have a peephole here as opposed to a flat blade. Our M60e3 hanger, the difference between a standard gun being these cutouts to reduce weight. It uses a standard feed tray. M60e3 drive rod, this is thicker and a more stronger design. M60e3 drive rod spring. The difference is this is a little thicker and it's a single strand spring as opposed to multi-strand, which is what the standard gun used. M60e3 top cover. This is crucial. This is very hard to find these days. The difference being we have our feed cam, which is slotted instead of circles. There's a little swoop there. The difference is you can rack the bolt with this closed. It's a much improved design. On the side here we have this indent for our feed cam to go. You'll also notice there's cutouts in the back there to reduce weight. This feed lever and spring is also thinner than the standard. E3 sling swivel. E3 forward pistol grip. E3 hand guard or heat shield. E3 bipod. E3 pistol grip. You'll note the SD for Seiko Defense. E3 op rod, much improved design. You can tell the difference between standard because this will have two cutouts for sear catches. E3 buttstock, much lighter weight, sturdy butt plate. And that's the complete kit. That's everything you need to convert your standard gun into an M60e3. So now we're going to go ahead and go over how to properly assemble this gun. We have our stripped receiver here, and that's what we're going to start with. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on assembling the front end, just so we can get the bipod and stuff mounted and the gun will sit there a little easier. We're not going to put our sight on. This is a standard sight on this gun, as you can see by the flat spring there. To remove the rear sight, what you would want to do is you have to knock this out very carefully. Don't mar your finish with a maybe piece of fiberglass, and it will come out this end, and the other sight assembly goes on the reverse. So what we'll do is we're going to begin by taking our heat shield and we're going to take it straight over our gas tube, and it'll expand and just kind of go on there. These little things here, they ride on the trunnion here in this slot. You can basically spread this apart with your hand a little bit and it'll start sliding on there. We want to work it on a little bit there. Now we'll take our bipod forward pistol grip. This band here, this metal band, will go into our forward pistol grip just like that. Then we'll take our sling swivel in this way, and we'll put it we'll put it in the between the bipod and the forward pistol grip, holding them all in place. We'll start to work them on the gun. Now, what we'll do is we'll just kind of, I set it on its back side and just start working it on until it slides, till this band slides from the gas tube. There's a detent in there. I don't know if you can see it. That has to be depressed with a basic cleaning rod and then slid down. So we'll use our cleaning rod. And it's easy to do this with the gun on its back side, but I'll try to get it in the camera here. So we push that detent down, and it'll slide down. That detent will slide on, and we'll just work it in place. Now it's on. Okay. Now let's take our barrel assembly. This barrel assembly goes on just like any barrel assembly. We want to make sure our sling swivel's on the right side. We'll put our barrel into the trunnion, make sure it's seated completely, and then we'll lock our barrel in place. Let's go ahead and extend these bipod legs down just so we can sit the gun upright. Alright, next thing we're going to move to is our trigger housing or trigger assembly. Just like our standard gun, we have our cutout in the bottom of the channel, and we'll work this in. And it'll slide in place. Next, we want to line our front of this up with a tab up front so we can insert our pin. This can be tricky sometimes. We just want to ensure that it's lined up properly, otherwise that pin, which is precisely machined, won't go on right. Alright, take our pin, insert it like so. The M60e3 uses a standard leaf spring or flat spring, same as a standard gun. So what we want to do is let's go ahead and put this on the front, and we'll work this rearward and down. Sometimes this can be a little tight. There it is, it's in place. Next, we're going to put our bolt and op rod assembly in. Again, we want to rotate our bolt forward in the correct position. It sits sideways in the gun. Carefully inserting this, ensuring that it's lined up properly, and that the actuator is riding properly on the top of the rails. There's our actuator. It's going to come to a stop. That's your sear stopping it from moving forward. Let's take the gun off safe, pull the trigger, and put the bolt forward. That snap is of that bolt rotating in the chamber of the barrel. Drive rod goes in the back of the drive rod spring, and let's feed this spring in the back of our op rod, and it will sit in there. We'll take our buttstock, if that will focus. You can see in the back where the buffer seats in there. So we'll go ahead and we'll put our buffer in, make sure it's seated properly. Then we'll work our buffer into the back of our drive rod, and we'll just, sometimes you got to tap it, we'll work it forward until it's lined up with this groove in the top of the rails. And we'll take our yoke, that's our buffer yoke retainer, and it goes right in the top of there, and it should seat in place, which it did. Alright, let's put our feed tray and our feed tray and our top cover on. First, we'll sit our top cover right on the top there. It's seated in place. We have to line our top cover return spring up with the hole in the top of the trunnion, and we'll just kind of slide this in place here. And it's in. Now, we have to line everything up. We have to line the top cover, the feed tray, and the spring up in these holes on the top of the trunnion. So let's go ahead and do that. And then, once that's lined up, we'll take our 2-piece pin, and this is a hinge pin, and we'll try to get them in place. In this, you just kind of got to work it, you know, and do your best to line all 3 of these up. And then once they are lined up, this should go in relatively easy. There we go. It's completely in. You can see it's seated flush. Then we insert our second part of our hinge pin into the other side, and we've mounted our feed tray. As always, the last thing we want to do is do a function check of the gun. Weapon's off safe. We'll rack our bolt to the rear, put our weapon on safe, holding the charging handle, we'll pull the trigger. It is functioning properly. Then we'll ride our bolt home gently. Never want to send that bolt home too hard. Again, rear, safety functions. Let's go ahead and put our top cover down. Then we'll ride it home again. And as you can see, on a standard gun, this would not be able to rack to the rear, but because of our E3 cover, we can rack that bolt. That is a fully assembled and complete M60e3 machine gun. Seiko Defense parts, made military spec.